Inner Mongolia's Greater Xinjiang Range is one of the coldest places in China. Winter here lasts for 7 months, and temperatures can drop to -40 degrees Celsius. Brief spells of sunshine, inhospitable forests, scarcity of food, and the extreme cold make it the harshest natural environment. For every living thing here, survival is a battle. Xiaoliangku walks across the snow where his ancestors, the Uygur people, have been building their homes for more than 4,000 years. Using a horn made of birch bark, he calls reindeer out of the forest. They are wild, undomesticated animals. But to survive together in the cold, the Uygur people have formed a remarkable relationship with them. During the cold months, the Uygur people use the reindeer's fur for clothing and tent material. In return, the humans give them food and salt, things which are hard to come by in the forest during winter. Humans have shown themselves to be the most adaptable of animals. To survive, they have struggled against, compromised with, and developed alongside nature. In the most recent phase of their existence, they have engineered a complex and sophisticated mechanism for self-protection, civilization. The history of human civilization spans just around 10,000 years, which is a blink of an eye when compared to the total period of life on Earth. How can we ensure that civilization continues to develop? Early in the morning, Jiawu Nan and his little sister come to the frozen river that is 5 kilometers from their village. In March, spring temperatures in Xinjiang's Pamir range are already above freezing. Villagers spread a layer of soil on the ground so that when the sun comes up, the soil absorbs its heat and thaws the ice. Jiawu Nan is a Chinese Tajik. In his language, Pamir means roof of the world. Together with the adjoining Tian Shan, Kunlun, and Himalaya ranges, the Pamirs are home to hundreds of snow-capped peaks of more than 6,000 meters in altitude, a vast cluster of mountains in Central Asia. The air becomes thinner with increasing elevation. At places over 4,000 meters above sea level, even trees have difficulty growing. There is not much to prey upon on the rock-littered surface of this glacial plain. Without being able to hunt or gather food, how can humans survive?
Başladı.
This ram's blood is being released into the river, marking the start of the Tajik's water drawing festival. As if to provide some kind of compensation for putting them through so much hardship, nature gives a precious gift, water, to them. Millions of tons of water around Jiawunan's village are suspended in the form of glaciers. There are over 1,000 glaciers in the Pamirs. Together, they cover an area of up to 10,000 square kilometers, about 1/3 of the size of Belgium. During spring and summer, an abundance of meltwater from the snow and ice sustains the people who struggle in the wasteland. About 3,000 years ago, Jiawunan's ancestors began to domesticate highland barley and wheat here. Growing crops 4,000 meters above sea level is very different from growing them on plains. One difference is a year-round lack of rain. The average precipitation here is less than 1/7 of that in North China, so the only source of irrigation is water drawn from man-made canals. It takes the whole village to dig a canal. Every spring, all the villagers join in breaking ice, drawing water, and leveling the field around the canal. Women are responsible for preparing 3 days of food for the men. All males are called on to participate in the work, regardless of age. The weather on the plateau is constantly changing, and it is possible to experience extremes of heat and cold here in a single day. If sowing is not completed within the shortest possible time, all villagers will face the risk of starvation. Growing crops brings a stable and continuous supply of food to humans, but it also involves more work than hunting and gathering from nature. Humans have diverted rivers to irrigate their fields and worked on land to make it suitable for farming. Most crops were once grasses and weeds, whose light and thin seeds could be carried by the wind and insects over long distances. On the Eurasian continent, it took people thousands of years to turn these grasses into heavy ears of rice and wheat. The contest with nature has lasted for hundreds of generations and has been a test of courage and will for all ethnic groups. During the last rite of the water drawing festival, riders will scramble for a sheep. This sport is common on the plateau, with local men competing for the prize in a contest of speed and endurance. Their steeds are not horses, but yaks that are normally used for plowing their fields. A yak is more unruly than a horse. The slightest mistake can result in serious injury for the rider. It's a dangerous game that is really more of a trial than a sport. The dangers of nature have taught every Tajik that only those who are smarter than an eagle, slyer than a fox, and stronger than a yak can survive in this wilderness. The battle between man and nature, of course, isn't confined to just the highland wilderness. Sometimes you can find it in a humble leaf. Yunnan province lies on China's southwest border. Plentiful rainfall, lush vegetation, and year-round pleasant weather conditions are some of the reasons why it was the earliest inhabited area in China, and possibly even Asia. Every morning, Xinjiang arrives at his nursery, where 300 well-groomed indigo plants bloom under the sun. Indigo plants are a kind of perennial herb. In China, this plant sprouts little blue flowers that can be made into an herbal tea called banlangun. Best known, however, is its use as a dye. Xinjiang lives in the small town of Zhoucheng, located at the foot of Sangshan Mountain. It is the largest settlement of the Bai ethnic group in China. The Bai people have been using plant dyes for more than 900 years. Indigo leaves are soaked in water for a week, slowly releasing their dye. Lime is put into the water as the pigment turns blue when it interacts with the alkaline substance. Stirring and mashing it over and over again produces indigo, the dye Chinese people have been using for millennia. Blue as a color is widespread, but at the same time extremely scarce in nature. The sea and sky are blue, but it is rarely present in living beings. Only 30 species of plants on Earth produce blue flowers. Extracting blue pigment from this plant requires experience and wisdom, and also a sense of responsibility.
在那个我们大直起大部分时候是把那个这个追了，发现有一家他种了一盆，就把这种这花盆里面一盆以后把它发枝出来了。
Xinjiang's passion for tie-dye came from his mother. She has been bleaching, dyeing, and embroidering since she was married at the age of 16. To leave an undyed white pattern on a blue cloth, you must first stitch and tie the cloth tightly before dipping it into the dye. You also need to hide imperfections like the needle holes in the cloth's texture. Chin's mother's sight has been damaged by 60 years of sewing, so she had to ask Chin to dye a piece of cloth with indigo blue for her. Locals have a saying, there are 3 pieces of cloth in one's life: a baby's swaddling clothes, a woman's wedding dress, and a shroud for the elderly. It was the first time Chin's mother had ever requested anything of him. 60 years ago, she married his father in clothes she dyed herself. 10 years later, she made the infant Chin's clothes with dyed cloth. Now that she is too old to dye cloth, he knows it is time for him to fulfill her wish. Hand-woven, homespun cloth is the most comfortable to wear. These clothes dyed with natural plants are the best illustration of her life as a hard-working and honest person. A sense of kinship and responsibility has given Qin Gong the wisdom to turn something rare into something beautiful. Thousands of miles away, the same spirit gives Dong Bao Ying the courage to challenge a cliff. Dong Bao Ying lives in the 400-kilometer-long Taiheng mountain range. The Taiheng Mountains stand between China's northern plain and its Los Plateau. Reaching the range interior from the flat land below involves an ascent of 1,500 meters. Throughout history, people have come here to escape conflict and turmoil in the shelter provided by high cliffs and deep valleys. Dong's ancestors migrated to this isolated area several centuries ago. Life in this region is a hard scramble affair. Villagers harvest their food from crops grown on the small plots of land and are often unable to get adequate nutrition. Anyone suffering from serious disease risks dying before reaching a hospital. The highway Dong mentioned is a 7.5-kilometer-long tunnel, 200 meters above the valley floor. The villagers worked their way through the cliff with hammers and chisels to complete their section. On the day they finally broke through, Dong's father was struck by the last rock that fell off the top of the tunnel. Chinese parents will give up their lives for their children. This is part of their nature, and it is what has made Dong Bao Ying embark on a journey to conquer the mountains once again. Dong Dong Baoying is going to collect Chinese knotweed for his pregnant daughter. In traditional Chinese medicine, it is prescribed for boosting blood circulation and helping women produce more milk. The wild plant only grows in deep valleys or on cliffs. In China, it is often referred to as medicine from heaven because it is so difficult to obtain. Dong's life will now depend on a 100-meter-long rope. After the cliff highway ended the small village's isolation, the herb became a new way of making money for the villagers. Growing demand has made it increasingly scarce. Throughout the spring, the family were looking forward to the birth of their grandchild. For the elderly, the happiest thing is watching their family continue to grow.
We are all travelers, in one way or another, in search of a truth, a light that will lead us in our quest. Adventures that will fill our spirit and soul. An exploration beyond what can ever be imagined.
After 10 days of searching in the mountains, Dong finally finds what he is looking for, growing on a cliff that is almost impossible to climb. Stories of his ancestors struggling to survive in this isolated place have made Dong understand that he has to triumph over nature. As a father, he must provide his family with sustenance. The herb Dong risked his life to collect has been made into medicine that helps his daughter produce more milk for her child. Watching them, Dong feels that everything he's done has been worthwhile. Family is a word that represents security and responsibility for Chinese people. To give their loved ones a better life, parents will struggle to make a warm and safe home, even in the most hostile environment. This humble desire to protect loved ones has turned into a force that has changed nature, but sometimes dangers and obstacles still lie in the way. June is the most beautiful time of the year on Tibet's Qiangtung Prairie. Encircled by the Kunlun Mountains, the Tonggu-La Mountains, and the Kailas Range, the Nagchu River is like a silver ribbon meandering through the pastures. Toktra is the best rider on the prairie. He won last year's racing championship here. This winter, Toktra and his family have been training hard in a bid to win again. The secret to training horses lies in their muscles and breathing. After going on a run, Toktra immediately immerses his horse in icy cold water, making its heart expand rapidly. He splashes water on the horse repeatedly to relax and tighten its muscles. This training can improve the animal's muscle strength and toughness, and by employing cardiorespiratory fitness training, he also increases its speed and endurance. As an old saying on the plateau has it, a horse is the offspring of a bird and a fish. Accordingly, exposing a horse to wind and water can help it draw out its ancestors' powers. The training method has been confirmed through many generations of experience. On the Qiangtung Prairie, 4,500 meters above sea level, the air contains half the oxygen of air on the plains. Thousands of years of living at high altitude has made the herders highly adaptable. Far away in Guangzhou, meanwhile, breathing for 10-year-old Li Ruifeng is not just about survival, but a way of learning about the world. He was born with impaired vision, so what he sees is vague and shadowy. Smelling and hearing have become his way of feeling out his surroundings. Guangzhou is a metropolis on southern China's Pearl River, with a population of 16 million and an area of over 7,000 square kilometers. For Li Ruifeng, the concrete jungle is like a real jungle, filled with unfamiliar entities and unknown dangers he must navigate his way through. Lin Jie works for the Guangzhou Tram Corporation. In 2015, the company decided to organize an event to turn its vehicles for public transportation into dream spaces. So they asked 100 children in Guangzhou to describe their dreams.
我希望用鼻子认识广州，感受大自然的味道。广州市盲人学校4年2班李瑞峰。
What does a city smell like? How can nature be experienced on a tram track? Li Ruifeng's dream became Lin Jie's project. Through it, she hoped to help local children understand nature, the adult world, and even our civilization. Back on the Tibetan prairie, Toktra and his horse begin their final training session ahead of the race. To maintain the momentum from training, the horse has to be kept alone at the stables, and Toktra too has to fast. To win the race, a strong bond must be formed between horse and rider. They can only achieve their best when both want to win. Winning the race will also bring honor and wealth. When Toktra won the championship last year, someone offered to buy his horse for 700,000 yuan. Speed, honor, and wealth. But are these all we seek?
所以呢，这个展览它叫东南偏南。
Wang Lili has given much thought to this question for years. As the curator of the Guangzhou Times Museum, she hopes to redefine the people's understanding of the city. To this end, she has chosen to use the medium of smell.
其实气味呢，是我们最早去接触世界的一个渠道。比如说婴儿，他的眼睛还没有睁开，他就通过气味、嗅觉，闻到妈妈的这个味道。
Wang Lili begins to redefine the city where she grew up. Through food, clothing, buildings, vehicles, and people, she approaches a larger, more solid presence, nature.
我们每天呼吸23000多次，然后移动大概12.5平方米的空气。随着我们的每一次呼吸，然后细微的分子都会进入到我们的身体，甚至是在我们入睡的之后，这个气味还是会进入到我们体内的每一个细胞的。
Cities are symbols of civilization and represent the pinnacle of human imagination and creativity. But when human ambition tries to reach too far, nature brings it back down in a second. Cities can decay and disappear. Skyscrapers can fall into rubble. But nature will always stand the test of time. Inspired by her thoughts, Wang Lili created the work Urban Smell. Through this work, she wants to express the idea that what we are doing is not to protect the environment or save nature, but to save ourselves.
上了这列车有没有闻到什么味道呀？
有啊，
你觉得是什么味道呢？大概有什么味道？
大概还是草的味道。
还是草的味道。
它有一股花的味道，再加上一股薯片的味道。
请小心列车。
Wang Lili's work is installed in the carriage. This is the moment when Li Ruifeng's dream comes true. Wang Lili brings her daughter to the tram. When the tram starts to move, she covers her daughter's eyes with a red scarf. Other parents participating in the activity do the same. The idea is not only to make the children's sense of smell more acute, more importantly, they want to be as inclusive as possible for Li Ruifeng. extend respect for the aged in one's family to those of other families. Extend love of the young ones in one's family to those of other families. This is an idea that is treasured in Chinese civilization, and one that can sometimes cross the boundary between animals and humans. On the last day of June, the Qiangtung Prairie Horse Racing Festival opens amid solemn ceremony. Tokchur's family is not present. Some people said he was afraid his horse would lose and its value would be affected. But others said that a horse is like a friend and a part of the family. No matter how high the price is, they will not separate from each other. Summer on the prairie is beautiful but fleeting. The land turns white after the first snow of the year. In Inner Mongolia, the Uygur people are ready to move once again.
明天搬家，明天，明天好天，看这样那个星星，它月亮，明天能晴天。
行，可以搬家，该搬家了，这都多长时间了？
那啥就得先拆跟前这个帐篷，跟前这个。
行，
先拆这个。
明天就只能拆一个帐篷。
行，那明天上午搬。
The Uygur people move with the reindeer as they migrate through the forest. For thousands of years, the Uygur people and the reindeer have lived together among the trees. They have never tried to domesticate reindeer. For the Uygur, reindeer are not just animals, but also friends and spiritual companions.
你不行走太快了啊，马强。
live peacefully with all creatures, connect to the natural world with an open and inclusive mind. With a sense of responsibility and sincerity, make a living in harsh environments. With a simple philosophy, Chinese people have not only established harmony between different ethnic groups, but also in their relationship with nature. After thousands of years of being tested and passed down, it's an outlook that infuses their blood. It is summed up as being at one with the universe in Chinese culture. The Kizil Caves lie at the edge of China's largest desert, the Taklamakan. As one of the country's 4 famous Buddhist cave complexes, the site houses 236 rock-cut grottos built between the 3rd and 11th centuries. The caves contain more than 10,000 square meters of murals that serve as a record of the desert's history and civilization. Rahman Ahmud started working as caretaker here in 1993. At night, after visitors have left, all he can hear in the desert is the wind. Worse than the loneliness and desert climate, he finds the monotony of yellow sand color everywhere. Of the desert sand, its rocks, and even the sky, hardest to bear. After sunset, he is the only human for 30 kilometers around. Tired of living in a place without any green, he planted over 300 tree saplings. But a lack of water and the high salinity and alkalinity of the soil here quickly killed nearly all of them. By the following year, only 1 elm tree survived. Rahman and his elm tree together form a tiny oasis of life in the vast Tarim Basin. This touch of green that has accompanied him for over 20 years signifies not only life, but also his hope and future.
There is a message from National Treasures. Please check it. The year is 2018, and another of China's national treasures is about to spill its secrets. Liye Chin slips are held in their own Liye Chin Slips Museum in Hunan Province. The wooden slips look inconspicuous, but hidden in the blurred characters is a huge amount of information. It describes the life of a county under the Qin dynasty in the late 3rd century BC. In June 2002, the discovery of over 37,400 slips in an ancient well in Liye, Hunan Province excited the world.
这片秦简上记录的内容，我们可以看到字迹已经很不清晰了。它经过火烧过、水泡过，就很难再现它本身的这个原貌。 但是我们通过一些技术，比如说多光谱的采集，可以把它很好的再浮现出来。
This is the record of a family that lived 2,200 years ago. The householder was Zhang Bu Boa and given the title of Bugong, which exempted him from corvée service. He had a wife called Yo, and their son was called Zhao She. It's an example of early imperial bureaucracy.
是不是很像我们现在的户口本？我还知道有一片更像身份证。
Wu Sao from Han Shen Li in Handan. He has yellow skin, elliptical face, and is about 170 centimeters tall. In 23 characters, it introduces us to Wu Sao from Han Shen Li in Handan. With the slip, Wu Sao could avoid his identity being stolen. Officials could also use it as census data. Although Wu's body has long turned to dust, this wooden slip has preserved his appearance for millennia. After Qin Shi Huang united his empire, he imposed a system of prefectures and counties. There were more than 40 prefectures in total. Dongting Prefecture's Qianling County was in all respects unremarkable amongst them. The officials here were typical bureaucrats of their time. The Li Yaqin slips are the day-to-day record of their government work. Most of the slips relate to life in the Qin dynasty, after Qin Shi Huang united the warring states. They cover events and affairs on a daily and monthly basis, from 221 BC to 209 BC. Each slip is the record of an event. It's a model of how the Qin administrative system worked. The over 37,000 pieces of slips are an encyclopedia of county life in the Qin dynasty. They cover subjects including postal communication, the administrative organization system, trade, arithmetic, daily events, and festivals. It's a panorama of the operation of a Qin county under the system of prefectures and counties. In 219 BC, the death rate of corvée service personnel in the county reached an alarming 1 in 7. In 215 BC, the county's warehouse manager sold the last 15 liters of wine to a man called Cheng. In the same year, there were 55,534 households in Qianling. And there are even 3 pieces of one of the oldest multiplication tables discovered to date. There are less than 1,000 words in the official dynastic records about the administrative system and social life under the Qin. However, the 200,000 characters of the Li Yaqin slips vastly expand on this vacuum. The lives of the officials and subjects of the early empire live on in these 37,000 slips. They are truly a shining treasure house of history. There is a message from National Treasures. Please check it. The tranquil and ordered scenery belies the extraordinary magnificence of what lies beneath. Below the modest monument lies a tomb in which the history of an empire is frozen for all eternity. It was in 1974 that the first stirrings of an incredible discovery were made. An underground army, part of the vast tomb complex for China's first emperor, was gradually disinterred. The dust on the mirror was accidentally stirred up. Terracotta warriors and horses of the first emperor of Qin at the foot of Lishan Mountain were exposed. The mirror of time allows us to reflect on what this means, then and now. Qin Shi Huang's 7,000-strong immortal army is arrayed in 3 great pits near his tomb at Lin Tong in Xi'an, the site of the Qin capital. 160 of these terracotta warriors in kneeling position were excavated at the east end of pit number 2. They form the vanguard. They are archers, clad in their armor and hair tied up, ready for battle, holding real weaponry in their hands as they entered the underworld. This archer is among the most junior rank in the battle array. He is also the epitome of these Qin warriors. His head and back are straight, as his legs crossed over each other to form a steady triangle, a posture that provides both a steady platform from which to fight and offers a small target to the enemy. This would have been textbook training drilled into his living comrades. Our archer's chest and stomach are protected by large sections of plate. The shoulders and waist have smaller pieces, allowing him to move and wield his bow. The raised right foot supports the weight of the entire body. The detailing of his footwear is precise. A thick, robust heel and toe for marching. Even the tread on the sole has been carefully reproduced to allow him to fight effectively in the netherworld. The posture, the armor, and the clothing are exact reproductions of actual warriors. Their faces, beards, and hair all differentiated. Only their weapons of bronze and wood have struggled with the test of time. When they were first discovered and excavated, there was still color in the warriors' apparel and faces. Faces that appeared to be so real they might have been alive. These are the faces of the men who united the warring states into one great empire at the behest of their king. The stars travel across the sky. Mountains and rivers stretch over the land. Generations come and go. But these man-made effigies hold the kaleidoscope of time stopped in their hands. Their power still rules the land. Their emperor still commands. Above ground, the dynasty of Qin Shi Huang is long gone, superseded by many others, imitators all. Under the surface, in China's heart, these warriors still await command. They are gone, yet they're here, and in truth, buried for all those centuries, they never left.